Good afternoon, everybody. So the session we have for you today is bringing it all together. My name's Jason White.
I'm Joe Bush.
We're both members of the Workforce Analytics group at Bank of America. And bringing it all together is really our story where we took a critical look at some of our existing dashboards and saw an opportunity to consolidate them, to distill it down to the key information, which would allow our clients to get in, get the insights that they needed, and get out faster than they had ever been able to before. So if you could just indulge me for a quick detour. When Joe and I found out that we were presenting at Tableau, Workforce Analytics, Human Resources, we figured 20, 40 people. If we were lucky, we might get up to 100. And at last count, I think it was over 600 people that had registered for this session. So that's just absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are humbled. So then that got Joe and I talking last week. What's the most that you have ever presented in front of? And so for me, I had to go back to elementary school. And so in 6th grade, I was in the talent show for our school, doing a saxophone solo. And so this included kindergarten through 6th grade and everybody's parents. All right, so I got up on stage, started my solo, started shaking violently, stopped, was mic'd up, my mom was in the audience, and just went, holy shoot. The problem being I didn't say shoot. So it turned bright red, finished up the solo, and moved on. So knock on wood, I'm hoping today goes better.
And I don't have a story like that, so I'm not going to try.
All right. So here's how we want to talk about this today. We're going to do it in 2 parts. So in the first part, I'm going to talk a little bit about workforce analytics generally, and then at Bank of America. From there, we'll get into our problem statement, what led to it, and then what did we want to do about it. From there, that'll take us to part 2, and Joe will go through that part. And really what that's about is, obviously our solution, I'll give it away, it's a Tableau dashboard. And our Tableau dashboard, he's going to take us through the details of the build, and then show the final end product, and then we'll wrap up sharing some client feedback. Okay, workforce analytics. So on the left side of the slide, we've got some industry statistics, and that story there is growth. We pulled some stats from LinkedIn Talent Insights, and essentially, if you look at HR professionals on LinkedIn, and somewhere in their profile, how many of them had listed analytics in their skill set, and it's almost double, right? It's up 90% over the last 5 years. That's incredible. And when we stepped back and looked at that, workforce analytics today, over the last couple of years, really looks like what marketing analytics was, say, 20 years ago with the dot-com boom. And it's really a realization that we are sitting on a tremendous amount of information and realizing how we can harness that information, how we can leverage that information to essentially provide insights for our clients that we haven't been able to before. And I mean, it still feels like we're just scratching the surface. On the right, more specific to Bank of America, we've got a quote from Sherry Bronstein, who is the Chief Human Resources Officer at Bank of America. I really like this quote. And so it breaks down into 3 parts. The first, employees are our greatest asset, right? I think most companies would say that, but given that we're in a service industry, we don't manufacture anything, we don't make anything, it becomes even more important, right? I mean, they are essentially an extension of the products that we offer. The second piece is really about, at the 50,000-foot view, what does an HR department do, and what role does workforce analytics play in that? And HR, their job is to help the enterprise attract, retain, develop. We want our workforce coming back each morning, having long, diverse careers with us. And workforce analytics underpins that, right? If you want to know how you're doing against those things, you have to measure them. You have to understand them. And so it essentially helps us do that better. And then the last part, provide the businesses we support important insights so they can best manage their most important asset. The data sits in HR, we own it, we govern it, but it cannot stay there, right? We need to make sure that this data gets out to the workforce so that the leaders across the organization can understand and manage their workforce towards that attract, retain, develop. Okay, let's get into our team. Our team is called the Workforce Analytics Reporting and Data Governance Team, or the War Dogs for short. We do have a mascot. His name is Darwin the War Dog. He actually is a real dog. One of our objectives of presenting here is Darwin has an Instagram handle. He has 460 followers as of today. He's aiming for 1,000. So cute pictures. If you can follow Darwin, he would appreciate it. Quick show of hands, how many of you have a background in either workforce analytics or HR? Wow, that's more than I thought. All right, well then we can probably shorten this slide a little bit. But what we wanted to do, and maybe it's unique to Bank of America, maybe it's not, you can tell me afterwards. We wanted to just give just enough context for what we do and how we do it that it actually helps when we get into the problem statement and the solution. So that's really who we are, what do we do, and who do we serve. And who we are, first and foremost, we're analytic professionals, but we focus in human resource data. And when we stepped back, and we've got a lot of varied skill sets across the team, but when we stepped back and said, what are the common skill sets that folks on the War Dog team have? And so it's probably very similar to almost everyone in this audience, right? We need to be client-focused. Everything we do needs to be focused on delivery and execution of our clients' priorities. How do we do that? Well, we need to be consulting-oriented, not only to understand the priorities of the organization we support, but also when they come to us with something new, taking that time up front to consult. What's the background? What's the context? What are you trying to do? What have you done before? Why did that fail, right? And just making sure that you're working with them along the way so that when they get something, whether it's an analysis or a report, you're not off the mark. HR data experts, right? Our clients expect us to understand every piece of data in the data mart, inside and out. How does it work? What's available? Certain data elements that have history versus not have history. How does the calculation work? Because if we don't understand that, our analysis is wrong, and we can't meet the needs of our clients. And then last, leverage multiple tools. So we need to make sure that we select the right tool for the job. And so when we look at the main tools that we have in our tool belt, Tableau, obviously, Alteryx, we still use Excel, Oracle BI, MicroStrategy, and given that we are an HR department, we use Workday as well. And so that gets into what do we do? Again, similar for everybody here. So our job is to tell the story, to provide insight, to make sure the clients that we support have that information they need around their workforce. And so we do that through two primary methods, your reoccurring reporting and your ad hoc reporting and analysis. Reoccurring reporting, it's essentially the bread and butter. It's the information that our leaders need to see. They need to see how they're performing. They need to see how that data is trending. They need to see any outliers. They need to measure against their objectives. The ad hoc reporting and analysis, that's the fun piece, right? That's where they come to us and what's happening with this trend? Why is there an outlier here? Maybe an anecdotal story that they heard from one of their leaders and they want to understand what's going on there. And so from there, it's our job to make sure we understand what happened, where it happened, and why it happened. We operate as extended members of the teams that we support. And so the importance of that is, it really goes back to the client-focused. We need to understand what they're doing. We need to understand what their priorities are. And by talking to them regularly, by attending their team meetings, right, we can almost anticipate what they want, before they come and ask for it. And so that gets into the last point here. Who do we serve? So when we think about our clients, we can put them into two buckets. We've got our direct clients, and we've got our indirect clients. So our direct clients are essentially the functions within human resources. Those are the ones that we are extended team members of. And then our indirect clients, back to that quote from Sherry, that's the rest of the enterprise. By us getting the information to the folks in HR, it gets out to the rest of the enterprise so that they can better understand their workforce. And I didn't see everyone raise their hand as far as being in HR, so when I say HR function, what do I mean? How many of them are there? There are more than 10 working collectively as a whole as part of an HR department, so let's see how many I can name. HR generalists, your talent acquisition group, employee relations, diversity inclusion, organizational health, compensation. I think you guys get the gist. I could keep going. And you're going to see some of these when we get into our dashboard here soon. Okay. So now we want to get into our problem statement. And I want to tell our problem statement in the context of our journey with Tableau. And so we'll look at the War Dog team before Tableau, after Tableau, and then the unintended side effect, which was information silos. Before Tableau, the primary tool that we were using was Oracle BI. And Oracle BI, for anyone that's used it, it has the ability to do visualizations, to create reports. That's not what we were using it for. We were primarily using it to pull down the data, essentially a data dump, pull it into Excel, and then create pivot tables, pivot charts, and then share that information with our clients, right? Gussing it up a little bit, but ultimately sharing it that way. There was not a lot of consistency from client manager to client manager on the team, as you can imagine. And so in that before Tableau environment, there were a couple people that were dabbling in Tableau. Joe, who's going to come up here for part 2, was one of them. But we certainly hadn't adopted it across the entire team. So that opportunity arose in 2017. We have a reporting package. We call it the MTM package. MTM stands for Management Team Member, which is essentially the CEO of the company and their direct reports. And so they have a meeting twice a month looking at all things workforce related at the enterprise level and one level down. And so the idea that we had is, well, why not put that in Tableau? And if we do it right, by putting it in Tableau, we can automate, right? Produce it faster. Less potential room for errors would go down. And most importantly, consistency. And so what I mean by consistency is taking that package, putting it on Tableau server, putting different filters and parameters in there so that all parts of the HR organization can drill down to their specific area, get the view that's similar to at the top of the house view, but for their organization, and even do some analysis light through the filtering and parameter capabilities. And so really, the problem that would have solved for us is, I've never sat in an MTM meeting, but when they have questions, they circle things on the page. They write down the question. Now, maybe they have one question on a good day, they could have more. And so when that meeting is over, they take that paper, pass it on to their executive assistant, who then scans it, emails it, and then sends it to the HR generalist that supports that space, right? Tell me what's going on here. And so it's not that we can't get to that, but they're starting from scratch, right? So they've got to come to us. We don't actually have that view for their level of the organization, and so it's just time consuming to be able to answer that question. So what we envisioned is they could go in, look at their part of their level of the organization, see what's going on, drill in, best case scenario, be able to answer that question before they even reach out to us. Worst case scenario is they've got a better idea of the problem so that when they come to us, remember that ad hoc analysis piece, that at least we've got a good starting spot. So fast forward to the second half of 2017, we launched the MTM package. Long story short, it hit all 3 of those objectives, and it pushed us into that after Tableau environment. And so in the after Tableau environment, it really became a pull, right? So our clients coming to us and asking for Tableau dashboards. It went from, can you help me with an analysis or report on X, to just, can we have a Tableau dashboard on X? And so the short answer was absolutely. The longer answer was it took a little bit of time, right? We had to make sure we had the licenses. We actually had to put together an academy. We called it the War Dog Academy. And we actually had what we called a Tableau track, which we actually had to get the broader team up to speed before we could start to do that. After that was done, a lot of things started transitioning to Tableau, right? Excel was used less and less. Tableau was used more and more, whether it was on Tableau server or whether it was just something where we were doing an analysis and sharing it in PowerPoint. A lot of it was being done in Tableau. And over that period of time, we got better at it. We learned, got a little bit more sophisticated in our visualizations, right? Because understanding the basics is pretty simple. Getting into some of those more advanced calculations takes a little bit more time. And 12 months in to that, we wanted to just take a step back and see what we had done. And that's what leads to the information silos. And so what I mean by information silos is if I wanted to get a dashboard on diversity inclusion, I had to go over to this dashboard. I had some great information on diversity inclusion, but it was sitting in its own dashboard. If I wanted to go get some headcount data, different dashboard. Organizational health data, different dashboard. Hires, openings, you get the point. So we had essentially created these information silos. And the problem that created, or at least where it manifested itself, is if you're a leader of an organization, absolutely you want to see all this information, but where do you want to start? You want to start with that overall 50,000-foot executive summary so you can see everything all on one page. Since we hadn't created it, the generalists did. And so what did they do? They would actually take bits and bobs from our presentation, or from our dashboard, and basically copy it into a PowerPoint slide, create their own executive summary. So we had lost that consistency. Honestly, I think we were a little surprised the first time we heard that they were doing that. And so we took a step back and said, well, what happened? Why did that happen? And we really came down to two reasons why it had happened. One, remember that I said that our HR department was functionally structured, and we supported the functions? So we were naturally working with the different functions across HR to build the dashboards that they wanted to see. And I think two, it was fast, right? We launched Tableau fast. This is what the bunnies mean. Our Tableau dashboards essentially multiplied like bunnies, right? We built a lot of dashboards in a short period of time, and it was really only after we had done that we could step back and really understand where we had done well and where there were opportunities for improvement. So we knew the problem, and we think we knew the solution. So this is our before. So we were looking at 6 of our bigger dashboards, multiple views. I don't know that Joe and I ever counted them other than to say it was more than 15. And what we wanted to take that down to was a single executive summary. So we quickly mocked something up, not the end product. This is just our first wireframe, but it was enough to get the idea across to our team, as well as to get the idea across to some of our clients in the general space, right? And go to them and say, if we built this, would this solve that problem? Would this prevent you from having to create your own executive summary? And then we can go back to that consistency, because we were going to roll this back into our MTM package. So the short answer was yes. So at that point in time, we knew the problem. We had a way forward on the solution. There's only one thing we hadn't done. We hadn't built it. And so that went to Joe's team. So Joe's going to come up and take us through the details of the build process and show you the end product.
Jason. All right, we're at a Tableau conference. Let's get out of PowerPoint, right? Bear with me 1 second. All right, so we had the green light to build this dashboard. You're probably asking, I can't see what's going on. That's intentional. We're going to keep you in your chairs till the end for the big reveal. So we had the green light to go ahead and build. Well, then we had to sit down and get requirements, right? So real high level, some of our requirements, the dashboard needed to be flexible. That's easy, right? What does that mean? It needs to be viewed at the enterprise level and top 3 levels of the organization. That shouldn't be a problem. We do that with those 6 other ones that you saw up there. So easy requirement to tackle. We needed to refresh it semi-monthly. Once again, easy requirement. We do that with the other stuff. There'll be some little challenges with that requirement, but nothing we couldn't overcome. Then we started to get into some serious requirements. So I think initial count was 56 metrics that we were being asked to put on a page. That alone in one dashboard over multiple sheets would be challenging. We had to fit it on a single page. I fought several times, kept getting shot down. I said, it would look really great if we could put some white space, extend it to 2 pages. Nope, single page. All right, so we got that. So we have the requirements loosely, and we go on to the build. So I'm going to get into the fun part now, right? We had to build this thing out. Along the way, obviously, we hit roadblocks. How do we overcome those roadblocks to get to the final product? That's kind of what I'm going to cover. Not going to cover all of our roadblocks, but the big ones. So first thing, data. Can't build a dashboard without the data. So when we sat down and looked, this dashboard required data from 5 different data sources that made up those other dashboards. Well, looking at that data, that was, 3 million plus rows of data, 550 columns, not unique columns, but columns of data. A lot of data to handle, to bring in to make this dashboard. So we had to figure out how we were going to do that. We had inconsistent data, so 5 different data sources. So we had field names in one, line of business name, LOB short name, on and on. We had to clean all that stuff up. And lastly, since the data wasn't intended for this dashboard, we had a lot of extra data that we don't want to bring into Tableau because that just causes performance issues. So how do we solve for that? Well, lucky for us, we use AlterX. We built this workflow, changed around the data, transitioned it, some formulas, cleaned it all up. We had a single data source, able to feed into Tableau, and we were off and running. The end data set, 2 million rows, about 105 columns or so. So got rid of a lot of unnecessary data, and we were off and running. Now, takes us to our next roadblock. All right, so if you recall a couple slides ago, Jason showed you the 6 dashboards that make up the package or some of the requirements from here. If you looked closely, you probably saw a consistent theme. We like our tables, right? So going into this, we knew we didn't want to do a lot of just tables, maybe a bar chart. We wanted to get a little creative with some of the visualizations and make it, pop out for the executives that would be getting this. So this is where I'm going to kind of cover some of those roadblocks to the charts that we created, right, in that final product. So reshaping the data, you guys, most should be aware. So we had a requirement for organizational movement, right? So what that is, that's your organization, your people, how are they moving in and out of the organization? So starting at a prior headcount, right? Who came in, hires, transfers, et cetera, who left, leavers, transfers out, et cetera, to get to that current headcount, right? Well, we love to show this in a nice, pretty table today, but we didn't want to do that for this executive summary. We wanted something different. Well, waterfall chart was a perfect visualization for this. And in order for us to build the waterfall chart, we had to take our nice wide horizontal data set with that movement data and make it a vertical data set so we can make that waterfall chart. AlterX allowed us to do that really easily, and we solved that problem. The second challenge we had with reshaping the data was with our transfers. Well, what do we mean by transfers? So since we had to view this dashboard at multiple levels of the organization, enterprise, line of business, several, a transfer means different things at a different level. So if we're looking at a line of business level, that could be someone moving from HR to technology, real easy, right? But if we go down a level, right, looking at that next level down, a transfer is entirely different, right? It could be HR to technology again, but it could be workforce analytics to talent acquisition inside HR, right? And as you go down, once again, more complicated. So with the help of some calculated fields, we were able to put that logic into place and no matter what you're selecting on the dashboard, it knows to grab the right field and adjust some other calculations that are driven off those transfer numbers, so we're always displaying that right number. So those were two big hurdles to overcome to get this waterfall chart to work. Let's go on to the next one. So I'm going to pause, take a quick look, see if you notice anything odd about this chart. Well, this may appear to be a nice single bar chart, but in actuality, it's 4 separate bar charts that we've mashed together on the dashboard to make it look like one. We had to do 4 separate ones, just the nature of how our data was brought in and the calculations and stuff. We couldn't do it all in one, so we had this problem. You guys see the problem? The bars are all different lengths, and they don't seem to make sense. Why is the second bar, 7.82, almost as long as the first bar at 11.06, and third one is shorter? So how are we going to overcome this to make it look right to the end user, right? So we got a little creative. Some of you guys may know how to do this, but we, with the help of a pretty complex calculated field, or semi-complex, depends on your level, right? It's no iron viz calculated field, but it's average business user, it's probably pretty complex. We basically look at all 8 measures on that sheet, on those sheets, right? Determined which one was the highest, and returned that value. Padded that number a little bit, and we dropped that field onto the detail card, made a reference line in each one, and there's essentially hidden reference lines out there that are at a little bit greater than 12.5 in this case, thus making all your scales even. So now the chart makes sense, right? The bars flow, and you visually can see that how your turnover is doing without looking at the actual numbers, right? So we thought that was pretty clever. We came to our next requirement, right, that we wanted to overcome. This is nice, clean bar chart, right? We had a requirement, number of levels of an organization. So take the leader down to the lowest person, right? How many people, how many levels is that? Well, this works, right? I mean, it tells it, but wanted to, once again, get away from the traditional bar charts, tables, etc. So unit chart made perfect sense to do this. So how are we going to do this? Really easy. We didn't want to go back and manipulate our data, add more data just to make a unit chart. Since the metric is pretty simple, we knew how many levels we could have just based on our data set. We basically went back to the well, reference line. They're really great. If you don't use them, you can get pretty hacky with them. Created constant reference lines. Just broke up those bar charts with a white reference line. Now you have this nice visualization. Makes a unit chart. So that's some of the roadblocks we encountered on the actual visualizations. Let's talk filters. We all have problems with filters, right? Let's talk more specifically. Where should we place filters, right? With us, we like our filters. And this is actually a mild number of filters. We have some dashboards that have 10 plus quick filters that they want on there. So with this, we knew we needed 5 filters and a parameter for it to work. Where were we going to place that? Up in the upper right. Those of you that attended Chantilly's this morning, she does not like them in the upper right. Maybe in the bottom, they kind of get lost there. We have 2 filters that kind of operate a certain part of the dashboard. Do we stick them in there? I mean, to us, nothing worked, right? It just didn't look good, right? We already had a lot on the page. We're adding even more. So, started thinking, what should we do? Well, we said, why not create a separate dashboard just to house the filters? This seemed to work. I mean, we threw all the filters on there, We put some text to tell you what to do, and gave a nice dashboard action button, and you can fill them out, go to your dashboard, and you're good to go. Us as developers said, we met your requirement, here you go. But we quickly got feedback, right? Liked it, but what filters do I fill out depending on what level of the organization I'm trying to look at? We heard you, understand. How are we going to overcome this? So went back to the drawing board, and we developed this. All right, so I'm going to quick demo, because this is where it gets fun. So first question, real easy. What level you want to look at? Enterprise, you leave it there, click your dashboard button, takes you there. But what if you want to go to the LOB level? All right, well, now we have another filter fill out, easy enough. We only need one. Fill it out, go to your dashboard. Go down another level. You have 3 filters now that you filled out. Easy for the end users to understand. And obviously, the last one, you get them all filled out. How do we do this? How many out here know about sheet swapping in Tableau? Well, that's essentially what we're doing, right? We're just doing some basic sheet swapping. Problem is, we set those sheets that you don't see in that negative X region. So it kind of pulls and pushes things onto the dashboard, depending on what you're selecting for your parameter. So we handed this off, and then we thought we were good. Then we had our testers come back. Love that requirement, but how do I understand what I filter my dashboard for? Yes, you need to understand that. Well, went back to the drawing board and created this. Some additional sheets, probably not best for performance, but it answers the question, right? So if we start going down through, and I'm just going to quickly do some filtering, right? So let's select the organization, select some departments. You see, it starts telling us right here on the screen, select a leader. Any favorites out there? Let's go with Jack Black. And you can see, right? Gives the end user all the information they need about what they filtered. And last thing we did, we just added another dashboard action button to reset it all back, because we all know we hate going backwards, right? It took long enough to go forward to select all those filters, let alone go backwards. So we did that. So we solved our filter problem, right? By getting creative and creating its own dashboard and having some actions, and we're off and running. So I'm going to just reset these for the big reveal here in a few minutes, and we're going to be good to go. So last roadblock we encountered, right, is just the design. Remember, we had all that information in the requirements, those metrics, KPIs, et cetera, and it had to fit on one page. How were we going to get everything that we had to create on one page? Layout, et cetera. Then we wanted to make sure we were designing with variety, right? Once again, we did not want those tables, basic bar charts, et cetera, and we wanted it to look like it all mattered, right? That they all flowed together, common look and feel. So how did we do that? Well, it just took some time, and it took a lot of playing, a lot of resizing, a lot of switching things around, changing from original visualizations to other things, and we finally landed on the dashboard. So this is what you guys probably all came to see now, is we're going to go to the dashboard so you can see it. So we're coming up on the holiday season, huge Christmas vacation fan. So can I get a drum roll, please? All right. So here's the final filter page, right, that we came up with. I'm not going to dive into it. Everything you're going to see today is obviously fake data. So we have the title, you named it, short description. We got those filters. This was so popular, we've started implementing this on all of our builds, is this kind of filter page, is our landing page. And then it's going to take a minute probably to load up. Here it is. Here's the final view. Don't take it all in. So for us, we felt we nailed everything. So I'm going to quickly walk you through this, or maybe not quickly, but it's fun. We start off right up at the top. We have a bunch of bands. You all should know that if you're at the Tableau conference, what a band is, right? So it's bands of our different worker types at the bank, right? Our employees, contractors, consultants, our outsourced services, et cetera, right? But it gives us our current headcount number, gives us what we were at the end of the year, how many actual people are we employing or losing, and then what's that percentage change, right? So right there, you're talking a plethora of information just for the leader to understand what's going on with this workforce. As we work our way down, there's that waterfall chart, right? You can quickly see the larger buckets of movement that, where people are going. So are we hiring more people? Are we losing them by transfers? Are we gaining them by transfers? So easy for the audience to digest that versus that traditional table where they're looking, scanning, and seeing what's going on, right? We got some net movement, so you can quickly see, how much you're up or down for the year or for the reporting period, and then we work our way over. We got some pending activity. So this is stuff that's already been entered into the system, right? That we know that's going to be coming on or off at the end of the quarter, right? So the leader can quickly see what's going to happen at the end of the quarter. Then we got those turnover bars that we showed you earlier, right? Analyzing different turnover types, comparing prior year versus current year, different groups of people. Very easily, the leader can totally understand, am I up or down? Do I have a problem? Do I don't? Without really, once again, scanning, looking at that traditional table that we provide. All right, work our way down, organizational health, right? So this is our own unique little section that operates on those leader filters, right? This is all based on a manager hierarchy structure, these metrics. So span of control group, and what size are the teams, the people, the managers are managing, right? How do they break down this year versus last year, right? We have another band right there for manager headcount, right? Same format, gives them that information of, how many managers we have in my organization. Span of control, that's the leader's size, right? So, what's their span of control for direct and indirect reports? How is it trending over multiple periods? And lastly, we got that nice unit chart with a number of levels. So all in all, that stuff's all nice and clean, something different than we traditionally provide. And then we work our way over. We got talent acquisition data, right? We all are concerned with hires, how many openings we have, comparing this year versus last year, what's pending, what do we have out there, what do we have from a total employee number versus what are we doing for managers only, right, at the bank. A nice month-over-month trend, so you can see how this year compares to last year. With some pending activity. We got a little hacky with the pending activity because Tableau just doesn't naturally turn a line chart into a dotted chart. So you can't really see it well because we're at the end of the year, but it will be a dotted line with the pending activity. So last section that we had was around D&I. Well, that was very important to us at the bank, so we wanted to make sure that it made it onto this executive summary. So we kept it all consistent here, just looking at different populations. So we, once again, comparing last year to this year, we got our females, we inserted some icons instead of, originally we had bar charts. Icons fit well there. We went back to the horizontal bar chart to do that compare of the ethnicity representation. And then once again, we just carried it all across, right? So everything seemed to flow naturally, right? Consistent colors, consistent fonts, broken up slightly. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. We do have some kind of lines in there that kind of help break it up visually when you're looking at it. So all in all, we really thought we did a great job in pulling this together. We added one more little dashboard button down here at the bottom that flips you right back to that filter page so you can pull down to your next part of your organization. So yeah, we were pleased with this, and this is the final product, and hope you enjoy it. I'm going to bring Jason back up. He's going to close us out here, talking about some of our feedback we've gotten.
The metric summary.
Oh, he's reminding me of one thing that we built that I forgot. So we added one more tab to this dashboard. Oh, you.
Wrong one. Oh, you got it.
All right. So the 6 dashboards, right? Well, people need to know where they go to get more information. We created another sheet, a couple hyperlinks, and they can just navigate straight to those dashboards. So once again, this is something people have liked, something we'll be implementing with more dashboards in the future to help navigate around. You ready?
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things we like to do when we build a new dashboard out is go out and get feedback. Where do we hit the mark? Where do we miss the mark? The usage data that we were seeing on Tableau server was showing that it was certainly being used a lot, but we wanted to know how we were doing against that objective of replacing that manual executive summary with this one. And so we've selected some feedback here, and if you look in blue, this is where we've hit the mark. So we've got a couple things bolded. It's so simple, really straightforward. Support our businesses with confidence. Easier way to gauge organization's health. Exactly what we were hoping to hear. And we got more of that feedback than opportunities for improvement. But when we look at some of the opportunities for improvement, and we've got those there in pink, there's a silver lining in some of those. So take that one on the bottom. Would hope in time we are able to hover over data in the report to see additional details, absolute numbers, names, etc. Okay, so you want tooltips. We had built tooltips into some of our initial dashboards. Nobody was using them. And so we just stopped building them because it was a waste of time. And so now, again, we've got that pull where we're starting to be asked for that. And I think when we stepped back and thought about that, just like we had to go in and learn Tableau and advance our skills and go on a journey, our clients or our customers are doing the same thing, right? So they're only 18 months, maybe 2 years in too, and now they're starting to ask for things that already exist, and so maybe it's time to reintroduce what we can do in tooltips. The second one is performance. The swirling ball of death remains a point of frustration when applying filters. There needs to be a quicker way for the data to pull it up in Tableau. And we've got a little picture of the swirling ball of death there. Remember the amount of data in this dashboard? Millions of rows, hundreds of columns. It might take 20, 30 seconds to go from one view to the next. So we've got some ideas. Maybe we could push some calculations from Tableau back to AlterX. We're having some discussions with our tech team about what could be done in Tableau server, but it's never going to be zero, right? You're not going to get rid of the swirling ball of death. It's going to be there in some form or fashion. So that really takes us to the end of the talk. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take some of that feedback. We're going to build out a version 2 of this in 2020 and then just keep refining it. So really, we just wanted to thank everybody for coming. We hope this story resonated with some of you. We hope that there's little tidbits of knowledge that you can take back to your organization. Joe and I are happy to stay up here if you have any questions, but really just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for coming and hear our story today.
Yeah, thank you very much.